Wolfies, can you hear me, Wolfies? Do you feel me, Wolfies? Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Moonlight Brew with your host, Katagiri Jinro, your resident werewolf VTuber. Hope you're all doing very well on this Saturday morning. Joining me for this Just Chatting stream, we're going to be talking about a couple of topics. We're probably going to be messing around with some web-based games, as well as most likely we'll look at one or two videos that have come to my attention thanks to the Wolfpack. A lot of you have been sending me videos that you think I should be taking a peek out of. So, for today's installment, we have a couple of things I want to talk about. I want to talk about the Pokemon DLC, that being the Hidden Treasure of Area Zero, because I recently picked it up. We're going to be talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 rumors that have been circulating around the internet, as well as we're going to be discussing the Steamboat Willie public domain debacle that's going on right now, because it's only fitting that we should discuss this right after we had just seen the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey movie together, because, you know, Winnie the Pooh is now in public domain. But we'll get into the whole thing with Mickey Mouse and Steamboat Willie and a little bit later on in this Just Chatting. Other things I want to talk about is some games that are going to be featured on the channel in the upcoming week, as well as some of the content plans that we have going on, as well as some of the community events that I'd like to do for the remainder of this month. So we're in for a somewhat hour and a half stream here. This is just a very casual thing that I like to do on weekends. Just as a reminder, there will not be a stream tomorrow, Sunday. The schedule will be out at 7 p.m., however, for week 3. And let's just talk about some of the stuff that you're going to be seeing in week 3. So in week 3, we're definitely going to be doing more Resident Evil, despite the fact that I got horribly lost this past week trying to figure out how to get to the next key. I assure you I'll be a little bit more prepared for the next time we do Resident Evil on stream, because I wanted to go into it mostly blind, and as I mentioned, I did play the game a very, very long time ago, and the game is kind of very foggy for me. It's not, like, really fresh in my memory. The other thing that I do want to talk about, Wolfies, is the other thing that we will be introducing to the channel. So I have been interested in playing the Batman Arkham trilogy on stream. That's something that I wanted to do. That's something I had told my manager that we were going to be doing on the channel in the not too distant future, and we got the sign off for that. So we're going to be playing the Batman Arkham trilogy as well as Batman Arkham Origins. I am going to start with the Batman trilogy, and then I'll do Origins. I thought about doing Origins first, but Origins is one of the weaker of the games because it wasn't made with Rocksteady Studios. So this upcoming week, we're going to start with Batman Arkham Asylum. We're going to play through the game. After I finish that game, instead of trying to go to 100%, the plan is that I will then be jumping into Batman Arkham City. We'll do that on New Game Plus because I've already played that game. And then we'll do Batman Arkham Knight, New Game Plus there as well. And then last but not least, we'll do Batman Arkham Origins. So this is going to be a Batman installment where we're going to do one Batman game per week for the next couple of weeks. That'll probably take us about somewhere into the 2 or 3 month range of our channel being active. So that's a long-term plan. So Resident Evil, we're still going to continue that. Batman will join the lineup with the Arkham Trilogy or Arkham Quartet. We'll close that out with Arkham Origins as the last game that we do. Then from there, another thing that will continue on is the movie nights, because I know people are enjoying the movie nights. We saw Super Mario Bros. The first week. Second week this week, we watched Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey. I will not announce what the movie's going to be for next week just yet. You'll have to take a peek at the schedule on Monday when it's posted to see what movie we picked. But we picked a horror movie last week. I think this week we're going to do something a little bit more wholesome-ish. The herb thing that I am planning to do on the channel this week is we will be playing Stardew Valley, because I recently started playing it and I want to add a cozy game that is easy for us to, do just chatting while I'm playing it. So Stardew Valley will be part of the rotation for this week, as well as something that's similar to Stardew Valley, but much more complicated, that being Gravekeeper Simulator, because it's a very interesting, grindy, weird type of game that I kind of want to continue to play that and show you guys. It went on sale during the Steam sale that was, like a week ago? and I had picked it up then, and I messed around with it, tried to grind a bit so that I wouldn't be playing it where it was a little tedious, because in the beginning, about 7 hours into Graveyard Keepers, when the game really starts to kind of begin, and then you get certain things that are locked behind techniques, and you have to get the blue points to get them, and then it kind of becomes a grind fest again. But I'm at a part in the game where most of everything that I need to do is available at easy access, and we could start really banging out some of the quests and make zombies, and it's a little bit more fun from there. Same thing with Stardew Valley. I'm not starting with a fresh farm because I already got the farm prepared a little bit ahead, so that way, you know, you're not watching me grinding just the very bare essentials in the very beginning. I think that's kind of boring to watch, so that's why I opted not to do that. So you'll be seeing my farm as it is, as well as my graveyard as it is that upcoming week. So it's Batman, Resident Evil, 2 sim games. I don't know if maybe we're going to break our time between both of them in one stream, or they're going to be separate streams. That is to be determined, Wolfies. Then from there, we're going to have another movie night, and we will have another just a chatting stream. Also, every Thursday, I'm going to try to do a community game night in the Discord, as well as I'll make this announcement on Twitter and stuff. So we'll pick a game and we'll play a game, and that'll be the game that we just kind of share. I might grab some footage of the game to use for things like commentary videos that I want to do on the channel. So that is something that, just be aware, if you join into the community game nights, there is a high probability that maybe some of the footage or all the footage will be recorded for something that I'm going to use later down the line. So that's basically what week 3 is looking like. So Batman, Resident Evil, a movie night, Stardew Valley / Gravekeeper Simulator. There's a couple of games that are kind of on my radar, but I have to find people to play with them, because I'm interested in getting Lethal Company, because it's a very cheap game. It's like $9. But it's an online thing where you need to like do it cooperatively, supposedly. I've been interested in Phasmophobia, which I told some friends about. That I can play single player wise. I didn't pick it up on the Steam sale because the Steam sale was only like $1 or $2 difference. So that's why I haven't picked it up, but I am interested in playing Phasmophobia on stream. This is like games that I'm going to be adding. This is a variety channel, okay? So I just want that to be clarified in the very beginning, now that we're in the, second week has been finished at this point. Because I know there's going to be times where there's maybe a game that maybe you're not interested in watching, one of the Wolfies, and some other people will be. And I just want it to be known that, even though Monster Hunter was pretty popular, I'm not going to be doing a lot of Monster Hunter. I'll do Monster Hunter every once in a while, when I feel like playing it. And we'll do probably more of it as community night than we will do it as stream, just because there's not too much I can do in terms of streaming the game. Because I have, as you saw with World, and as you saw with Sunbreak, I'm at endgame. So mostly I'm just help randoms out, and sometimes the randoms get a little flustered if you're using endgame gear. But there are topics that I would like to discuss, as I mentioned. One topic that's very interesting is what's going on in Twitch TV. Now, as I mentioned, Wolfies, I am YouTube exclusive. There's a lot of factors as to why I decided to go YouTube exclusive, just because I feel like the community on YouTube in terms of VTubers is way more wholesome than necessarily the ones that you find on Twitch. Considering I'm a say-so streamer, it gives me a little bit more restrictions as to not breaking any of the rules, such as copyright, such as, showing something that would be inappropriate. So it keeps me kind of in check. The other thing, too, is, like, as a say-so streamer, just going around Twitch, like, you'll see, in terms of VTubers, a lot of really good VTubers out there. There are still pretty good ones, but a lot of the other ones that you kind of get lumped into with the VTuber community and the tag on Twitch is, like, not safe for work, LewTubers, 18 plus. I'm trying to keep it a very all-inclusive, clean environment here at the Moonlight Brew, which I've been very happy with the results, because everybody's been very positive in the Discord, mostly positive in the comments, and everybody seems to be having a fun, wholesome time, which is the vibe that I like to. But with Twitch, as we already talked about, there was the artistic nudity debacle that kind of came at the forefront, not only because of furries, but because there were LewTubers that were trying to abuse the terms of service for that. And then they got rid of that on Twitch. And then once you think it was finally kind of going to normalize again, the topless meta, where people kind of pretended to be nude women, like from the boobs up, was kind of the meta that was going on. Now Twitch just recently decided to put out terms of service where they're banning anybody from pretending to be nude, synthetically pretending to be nude, cannot show the top part of the boobs exposed, kind of implying something suggestive. So Twitch decided they're going to clean up their act a little bit. They've also with the backside posterior said that you can't show that. So they're doing things to kind of clean up the image, because they know a lot of people who go to Twitch just to kind of watch a gaming stream or an art stream or a chatting stream really don't want to see that type of content. Now, personally, me, Katagiri Jinro, I don't really personally care too much for that type of content. I'm not going to shame people and say you shouldn't do that type of content, but I personally have never felt like it's the type of content that belongs on Twitch. I mean, this is going to be kind of a little bit of a controversial take, but I even think that some of the stuff that YouTubers do, particularly on Twitch, is not something that is the place to be shown on Twitch. I feel like that type of stuff is more suited for OnlyFans and adult content websites. Because you have to remember, at the end of the day, there are 13-year-olds that are on the Twitch streaming platform, as well as, YouTube. Now, YouTube would never allow that type of stuff, so I feel like YouTube is a much safer platform to avoid having any of my audiences seeing something that necessarily they shouldn't. And I know there's the argument of, well, you can just put tags on Twitch and the children don't read tags, or it's the parents' responsibility. But, the thing with the whole topless thing is, you have adults doing it. What if you have an underage streamer that decides that they're going to do it, that's a woman? And then it becomes a kind of a can of worms. And once you open Pandora's box, you can't close it. So I think it's the right move for Twitch. And I'm not shaming people who do that. I just feel like that stuff should be on adult websites and not Twitch. And it looks like Twitch kind of agreed with me and many other people in that retrospect. But I feel like it's a step forward, but there still needs to be done a little bit more, because there are some people still kind of skating the line. And I feel like a lot of what the YouTubers in particular do on Twitch is stuff that kind of skeets still the line and needs to kind of be cleaned up there as well as a platform. I'm not hating on them, but I don't feel like that's stuff that should be on a 13 plus website, or even that content that's being discussed should be on a 13 plus website. And that's kind of my TED Talk there for the day on that. Moving on, as I mentioned before, I did recently pick up the Pokemon DLC, that being the Hidden Treasures of Area Zero. Now, the Hidden Treasures of Area Zero is pretty much a mixed bag for me. Now, for those of you who are not really familiar with my Twitter, at Katagiri Jinro, same handle here, I haven't really spoken too openly about the game. I did mention that I did finish the Teal Mask, which is the first part of the treasure, or the Hidden Treasure of Area Zero DLC for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and I said I kind of had mixed feelings on it. The game still runs pretty bad. People who don't know me personally, I was very critical of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet when it got released, because I bought it on day one. I went to Best Buy to buy it before, they did away with their physical media in stores. So I got the physical copy of Pokemon Scarlet, and I am a Gen 1er, in case you don't know that. So I've played every Pokemon game from the very start of Pokemon Blue. Whenever the games come out, usually I tend to marathon the game upon release and play it all the way till end credits. I usually marathon these things because it's something that I grew up with, and I enjoy playing them generally. But I noticed that the quality in this particular game of Scarlet and Violet for Gen 9 was atrocious compared to Sword and Shield, which, yeah, Sword and Shield didn't look necessarily the prettiest, and it kind of looked like a glorified 3DS game, but it still ran properly. Now, with Scarlet and Violet, there's a lot of issues that I had with just the base game. For example, the frame rate issues just were very laughable. There's the scene where you're running around trying to catch the Sunflowers, and the Sunflowers are following you, and the Sunflowers are looking like they were a JPEG slideshow that you would find on the internet in the late 99-ish type of era of the internet, where people just had a whole bunch of GIFs that were very static and then it moved very flow-wise, because everybody was like on 56K back then. So it's weird, to say the very least, to see that type of stuff where they're moving at like 2 frames per second. I would say this performance of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet reminds me of another terrible Switch game, that being WWE 2K18. I would say that the game moves just as slow and just as messy as that game. And as somebody who bought that game, because I'm a wrestling fan, and I thought it would be kind of cool to have a WWE 2K game, on the Switch where I could play on the go, on handheld. That was pretty bad, but Pokemon kind of is near that in certain times. Like, I noticed it gets really bad in rainy areas. But this was for the base game, right? So I figured with a couple of updates, a couple of patches, the DLC shouldn't be that bad, right? So I start playing through the Teal Mask, part 1 of the DLC, and to my dismay, right as I get off the plane to just start the very beginning of the game, the frame rate is having a problem just on the cutscene. I'm like, okay, maybe this is just an isolated incident. The minute I got to the field and started to try to catch some Pokemon, I saw some significant FPS drops, like really, really, really a large amount of FPS drops. Something that it just shouldn't have happened. And, you know, it's unfortunate, but it's part of the game because they didn't really do anything to optimize. Then, as I was going a little bit later into the game, I don't want to spoil things for people who maybe have not played the DLC. I ran into in a forest area. It was starting to rain. I had to take pictures of Pokemon for a specific purpose I won't spoil. And when it started to rain, very similar to the base game, the game really started to freeze and lock up, and the frame rate was dropping atrociously there. This actually just happened not too long ago because I was just playing the game right before the stream, and it was a mess. It was a mess in that area. So performance issues that should have been fixed weren't fixed, and for $38 that the DLC was, it's a tough pill to swallow. As for the story itself, I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on it. Like, I think the legendary Ogrepon, as it's called, I guess, I'm probably butchering that name. It's an okay Pokemon. I think it's kind of a cool grass type. I like the fact that it changes its type via the mask that it wears, which you get, you know, those masks by going through the story campaign and retrieving them. I liked its backstory. I thought it was a cool backstory. I like the way that the story concluded with it, where it kind of came full circle. As for the, what were they called again? The Fateful Free, were they? Or they were the Lucky Free? Or I forgot what they were even called now. I'm going to actually look it up here a second on the internet so I don't butcher this. I think they were Faithful Free. No, they were the Loyal Free. Okay, so that's the name of them. They were the Loyal Free, right? So the Loyal Free, for all intents and purposes, was supposed to be the mythical trio there. And for the most part, their story was just kind of felt tacked on. Like, the main legendary Pokemon had to have some type of antagonist, and instead of making the legendary Pokemon the antagonist, they decided no, that the legendary trio were going to be the antagonists in this one. There are battles where you have to fight them in their souped up forms. It's kind of cool, and there was a sense of tension to them. Their typings were pretty interesting, and they did give my level 100 Pokemon, some of them, a bit of a challenge trying to take them down. Not like a big struggle, but they were way harder to take down than some of the type of content that I did in the base game. So for that, I kind of like that it gave me a little bit of a challenge, even as somebody that like has Pokemon that are fully EV trained, proper typings, you know, good weapons with them, and they were maxed out stats, and we still kind of struggled. So I kind of like that. As for the characters introduced, Carmine and what's the other one, Kiki, they kind of were interesting. Carmine, I felt, was a little unsettling at first because she kind of acted really toxic and she was verbally abusive to her little brother. And I didn't really feel comfortable with some of the scenes personally because I felt like it was just a bit much. And it kind of made me really want to hate Carmine. Then, ironically, as the story continued to progress, I kind of started to notice that Carmine necessarily wasn't a gaslighter, manipulative, mean girl, but was just a very overprotective big sister that was trying to protect her younger brother from getting into trouble. And then I started to kind of feel uneasy about, ironically, Kiki, because Kiki's character starts out as this nice, wholesome character, and because they're kind of excluded, and the legendary doesn't really kind of pick them in the story, they get very, very jaded, and they become bitter with each loss to the point that they completely start to change as a person by the end of it. And then we get the big to be continued, which is part 2 of the DLC, which I haven't played through yet. So we'll probably talk more about this DLC when I get to the second part of it and start playing through it with Blueberry Academy. But yeah, it was kind of interesting how my feelings on 2 characters reversed. And I think that was kind of the intention of the story creators for this DLC, because they wanted you to hate one character at first and feel sorry for the other one and like the other one, and then it completely swaps roles, which is interesting. I have a feeling that maybe Kiki, I don't know, don't spoil it in the chat for people who haven't played the game yet, but I have a feeling that maybe Kiki is probably going to be like a big final baddie that we deal with in Blueberry Academy. It just kind of feels like they're building this character up to be something more, maybe like the Elite Four champion of this series of games, because the Elite Four wasn't, it was in the base game, but not exactly done the way it should have been. So I think like Blueberry Academy's Elite Four is supposed to be more intense and more serious. And if anything, from the level scaling implied, we're probably in for some interesting times ahead. Hopefully it runs a little bit better in terms of optimization, because those optimization things really took me out of it. There were times like I was having fun like catching Pokemon and seeing returning favorite Pokemon, and you know, intense battles trying to catch the legendary trio. But in between those intense moments that made me always a fan of Pokemon and being like seeing glimmers of previous Pokemon games that always like got me hyped, all the performance issues really kind of suck the life out of that joy that you're experiencing, because it's like you'll have a fun moment and then the game just kind of starts slowing down and FPS drop. Then you'll have a fun moment again and it's more of the same. And the story, like I said, it wasn't necessarily great and it wasn't necessarily bad. It was just kind of okay for Teal Mask. It was kind of a mid-story. It was a story. I didn't feel like they did much with the region itself because I explored every nook and cranny. I really didn't feel like some of the Pokemon that were in that particular dex were like amazing Pokemon. I was very hyped to see come back. Like the only thing was the secret, not so much legendary, but pseudo-legendary that they introduced, which is kind of a throwback to a previous game in this gen. I don't want to put spoilers for that. You'll see it when you see it if you haven't already. But it involves like the camera quest. That was probably my favorite new introduction Pokemon that they put in the game. Sinistea, like I caught one and I was like, well, or the poltergeist thing that it is, it's okay. It's nice Japanese theme. I don't personally see myself using it unless it's got like amazing stats. That was kind of okay. I haven't run into any new forms of anything else yet there. So it looked like it was mostly some old returning favorites that just kind of got slapped together there. I think some of this region also, it's kind of cool. Like if you didn't finish the base game, like completing the Pokedex, it'll be a little bit easier to finish your first Pokedex there because it's just easier to do because there's a lot of evolution things that you don't have to evolve that you can just catch there. But if you were like somebody like me who 100%ed the base game and the Pokedex, when you come to this region, there's not a whole bunch of much for you to do besides catch Pokemon that you're probably not going to use and level up some Pokemon so you can finish the Dex. And it's just like, it's there. It's a Pokemon game. It feels like another add-on Pokemon game, like a couple extra 6-7 hours, but I felt very underwhelmed by it, Wolfies. I'm hoping when we get to Blueberry Academy's storyline that things pick up and I feel a little bit more interested in it, because originally I didn't buy the DLC. I waited to Christmas because I was like, maybe I'll pick it up for Christmas, pick it up with some Christmas money. I was interested in getting back into VGC because Katagiri Jinro offline has been in the past a Pokemon VGC player, but in order to play VGC, obviously I need the DLC too because you have to have the current running software for it. So, you know, it was something. It was there. I don't know. I don't really see too many Pokemon from that gen, or not even the gen, but from that particular dex I'll use outside of the pseudo-legendary that I think was going to go on my team, because it fills a niche of a typing I don't have on my team currently. Other than that, I think the legendary trio is going to get boxed. The legendary probably is going to get boxed because it's a good concept. I feel like Genesect did that better in previous gens. That's my thoughts currently on the Pokemon DLC. We'll see if it changes in a week's time when I've had more time to play for the second part of the DLC. I'm hoping so because, as you know, the epilogue came out, which I'm hoping when I do get to that part 2, that they're added something like the Battle Tower to the game, and it's like something they sneaked in, because right now post game for the game is just like catching Pokemon legendaries and like leveling things to partake in tournaments or online play. And I don't pay for my Switch online because I just don't play that console or those games online much to really justify paying $20 a year for it. That's just me. I'm not saying don't do that if you're, a fan of Nintendo, but that's just kind of my 2 cents. Now, speaking on something also Nintendo related, the Nintendo Switch 2 rumors have started. So I don't know if any of you Wolfies are familiar, but there's some alleged leaks that have come out that the Nintendo Switch 2 is on its way. In fact, there's a rumor that probably we're going to see the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal sometime in the springtime or the summertime. I think it's most likely going to be the springtime, because in the springtime around March would be, if I remember correctly, when they revealed the Nintendo Switch about 4 or 5 years ago at this point. So if you're going to reveal the Switch 2, you probably will wait till March because you want to generate some interest for the summer. Because then you could do summer game reveals and show more gameplay footage and then sell it probably for like holiday season 2025. And I've seen some troubling things with the Switch 2 already. One of the rumors going around is that the Switch 2 is not going to be on par with the graphics of a PlayStation 5 and an Xbox Series X or a 1660 Ti graphics card. So it's going to be basically a PS4 chip. So it's probably going to be a little bit either on the equivalent of 1660 Ti, or it's definitely not going to be a 3070 or a 4080 or whatever the number is. So with the Nintendo Switch 2, it's going to be out of the box already 10 years outdated, because PlayStation 4 and Xbox One came out 10 years ago. So you're going to have a PlayStation 4 in your hand, and I know a lot of people are going to be hyped with that, but you could already have a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in your hand, that being a Steam Deck, because Steam Deck plays Steam games, and it plays most games that are coming out compatible now with it run just fine on it. So you can do that already on a Steam Deck. So I have been a bit iffy on this because it's going to charge, on top of having a very lackluster game chip in it, it is also going to be, Wolfies, $400 is the estimate, the retail price of it. So it's going to cost you somewhere around $420 to $430 for the Nintendo Switch 2. There's no confirmation yet as to whether it's going to be backwards compatible. There's no confirmation as to what games are going to be coming out yet, so that's to be determined. Most likely it's going to continue the Nintendo Switch Online subscription fee thing that they introduced, where you're going to have to pay to play your games online. So I've been in heated debates with people on the internet over this on my personal account, which obviously nobody will ever see because I've done a very good job of hiding that. And as well as just seeing people reacting on the internet to it. So obviously, if you're a hardcore Nintendo fan, you're going to buy it regardless of how I feel about the system. And that's your prerogative. But I think it's kind of very bad for Nintendo to put out a system, again, that's outdated out of the box. Because here's the thing. Everybody is going to love the Nintendo Switch 2 when it comes out, because there'll be a new Mario game to play. There'll be eventually a new Zelda game to play. Hopefully the Pokemon games on the next gen console will work the way they're supposed to, where it won't be Scarlet and Violet again. But there's going to be a point where then you've played all your first-party Nintendo games, and Nintendo takes a while to make our first-party Nintendo game. So then what are you going to play then? You're going to have to rely on third-party games. And here's the problem with third-party games. On the Nintendo Switch, third-party games were few and far between. Unless it was an indie game that was easy to run on tablets and stuff, you didn't usually see it show up on the Nintendo Switch. We never got a Call of Duty on the Nintendo Switch. We never got Spider-Man on the Nintendo Switch. We never got Lethal Company on the Nintendo Switch. It's a surprise we got Dead by Daylight on the Nintendo Switch. And when we got Dead by Daylight on the Nintendo Switch, it was one of the most horribly optimized ports. Mortal Kombat 1, remember how everybody was complaining about how terrible and unoptimized looking it was? Well, what do you think's going to happen with a Nintendo Switch 2 that is 10 years outdated and will not play PlayStation 5 type games and Xbox Series X games and, T30 80 cards and, you know, RTX cards, top of the line ones, what are you going to do then? You're going to start moaning about why is the next Mortal Kombat playing and hardly optimized on the Nintendo Switch 2. You're going to complain as to why the Call of Duties aren't looking as good or don't run or completely bypass the Nintendo Switch 2, assuming that's the name. You're going to then complain about, like, why you didn't get Spider-Man 2 on the Nintendo Switch 2, because it probably is not going to be able to run. You have to think about it. A lot of developers are not going to want to develop a game for outdated hardware. They're not going to want to develop a game that's 10 years outdated. And that's going to be a lot of the third-party companies, because they're just not going to want to do that. Because when you're making a video game that's coming out in current gen, you want to optimize the game and have it so that it plays on all current gen things like PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox. It just makes a lot of sense. If you look at a game that was recently announced, most of them, you will see that it says on the Nintendo Switch nowhere. It doesn't even say anything else. So, you know, developers already don't want to develop for the Nintendo Switch because it's underpowered and outdated. What makes you think they're going to want to sign up for another system that is a little bit better than the Nintendo Switch is and can play things a little bit better, but is still outdated by 10 years? You don't want to have to develop the same game on two separate platforms, thinking 10 years back, and then currently thinking for modern day generation systems and PCs. It's just not feasible to do that. And what happens then is, let's say games do get ported, like they did on the Switch, they're probably going to port them with third-party developers doing it for those third-party developers. So you'll get like another company doing it. So you'll get like Blind Squirrel, who messed up a lot of games on the Nintendo Switch, doing the ports for that. You'll get like, maybe you'll be lucky and the people who did Warframe on the Nintendo Switch will do something to optimize a game on the Nintendo Switch too. But it becomes a problem because not even the developers want to develop their game on an older system. No, they'll just outsource it to a different company to try to do it. And when you do that, then you run into problems like what we saw on the Nintendo Switch with Mortal Kombat 1, WWE 2K18, My Troll and I think was a game that had problems, NBA 2K Playgrounds, those type of games that didn't run very well. That's how you run into the issues. And I already see that those are going to be issues on the Nintendo Switch 2, whatever it's called. My personal opinion is this is what you should really do, Nintendo. And I'm hoping maybe this is the case. We don't have technically a Nintendo 3DS or DS right now, because the last one was the 3DS and it's been sunset. The Nintendo Switch right now is doing a pretty good job of being a handheld-like game where it's basically tablet level. So if I were Nintendo, what I would do is, instead of doing a Nintendo Switch 2, yeah, maybe you release a Pro version of that model and call it the Pro version and sell it. I would split their consumer base, because you have a large Nintendo Switch install base as it is. So what I would do is I would make a regular game console that's not handheld, like, and call it the Nintendo Revolution or something. You know, one of the old planned things. I would have a fully dedicated console Nintendo system that plays only on the TV, that does 4K gaming, is currently up to today's current modern gaming development standards. And then I would use the Nintendo Switch to use more underpowered games that would be more suited for playing in handheld. That way you can kind of continue to use the Nintendo Switch as the successor to the 3DS, and then you can go back to having a more powerful console. And then people can develop for each platform, and there can be some kind of layout. I think that's what they personally should do. I'm crossing my fingers that maybe that's the plan, and maybe this Nintendo Switch 2 is just the name that people are giving it, and we're just going to have the Switch as one platform, and then the other thing as the other, and that would probably be the best way, the middle ground, to solve some of these issues. That's what I'm hoping they're doing. I'm going to stay optimistic. Personally, if it's another Nintendo Switch system, I'm probably not going to buy it until there's a significant price drop. Like, I personally bought my Switch 2 for 2 games. I bought it to play Super Mario Odyssey and to play Pokemon games, because as I mentioned, VGC player. I got to play the Pokemon games this gen, and I think Sword and Shield was definitely my favorite one of them. Let's Go Pikachu Eevee was kind of cool. I wanted to see a Johto version of that. I'm kind of bummed they didn't continue those type of games. I didn't get the Diamond and Pearl remake because I have the original Diamond and Pearl, and I didn't really see that there was much change there that was really worth it. And as you saw, a lot of the Sinnoh Pokemon didn't even carry over into Gen 9, unless it's in Blueberry Academy, and I'm pretty sure I could just catch them there anyway in Gen 9, right? So that's really what I do it for. So until like a Pokemon game gets announced with a bundle or something, I probably wouldn't get the Switch 2. If it's a Switch Pro, I'm probably not going to upgrade unless like a game honestly needed it. And again, I would wait till a large price drop. I didn't buy my Nintendo Switch on launch. I waited like 2 years for it to come out with different type of bundles and see a price drop, because I don't like to early adopt on games because you never know what happens. On top of that, I'm not sure I would want to buy another Nintendo Switch type of system if they didn't fix the Joy-Cons, because Joy-Con drift is real. I've gone through 4 Joy-Cons right now. My original pair that's completely destroyed, and I haven't sent them to Nintendo to fix it because I don't know if they're still doing it for free. And the other thing that I have is a black pair that I bought that now, not only do the lights not work on the controller itself, like it doesn't light up anymore, but on top of that, like the L button's messed up and the Joy-Cons just started to drift too for that. And I don't want to pay $70 for it. And I don't want to repair the Joy-Cons myself because I'm not very tech savvy at opening up controllers to do it, because if I mess up the ribbon cable, then the controller's broken anyway. And then I'm kind of concerned because I did have my 3DS and I did put a new circle pad in, and I bought it from China, and the circle pad melted and fried my motherboard, and then my 3DS doesn't work anymore. So I'm very hesitant to put things that I find on Amazon, do-it-yourself kits, into stuff like that, because chances are they're made with shoddy products and then will damage my system, right? And Nintendo, I don't know if it still fixes them. So I hope like the Switch 2 has the Joy-Con drip. It's the same Joy-Con designs. That's just going to be a world of trouble again. And I'm not signing up to have to replace controllers all the time. I have to replace controllers here. Like, I've gone through PC controllers already, quite a few of them. I'm on my second Xbox controller for my PC, because I play on controllers I mentioned before in Steam. I've gone through 4 Joy-Cons. My Nintendo Switch cheap knockoff controller I have, that's the plug-in one, that one's seen better days too. It drifts as well. And I wish gaming companies would do a better job with their analog sticks and control sticks, because right now they've just been kind of atrocious for the thing. So that there's that too. So it's been interesting, Wolfies, I have to say, at the very least. It has been quite interesting what's been going on with all these little things with the Nintendo. And the thing is, people hate me because they're saying I'm being overly critical, but these are just things that a lot of gamers have had complaints about. I don't really feel it's going to be worth $400. Unless, like, I have to see something significantly changed and it not be a PS4, be more like a PS5 type of quality out of the box. I don't think they're going to do that, because then they'd have to charge probably like $500 for the system. At that point, I always say, like, you're better off just getting a gaming PC unless you really love Nintendo that way. But to each their own, right? It is what it is, Wolfies. All right, so moving on to another topic. I'm going to actually cue this up here. How many of you have heard about Steamboat Willie? So now there's like Steamboat Willie, which is the original design of basically Mickey Mouse, has now become public domain. And the thing about it is, only the original design of Steamboat Willie is public domain. Everything else is not. So some of the things that I have noticed is that Pokemon games, or not Pokemon games, excuse me, video game, came out with, like, there's a horror video game coming out with Steamboat Willie. And we're going to set this up here because I do want to react to this trailer. Let me get my screen captured. Should be, if I'm not mistaken here. Let me see. Because it should be display capture, right? No, that's my monitor. We don't want that. We want window capture. Okay. So we want this one. Give me 1 second. It's going to come up. I have it, like, blackened so you guys can't see it. All right. This is, you can see, not properly formatted for my screen because I've been messing around with settings because of movie night, Wolfies. So just fix it a little bit more, just to the side here. As you can see, there's a lot. I can't pull down anymore because this is not really formatted for this type of screen. So 1 second. Let me cook here. All right. Let's try not to cut out the edges as much as possible. I can't, like, auto format this. This is about as good as we're going to get, Wolfies. All right. So I want to take a look at this game called Infestation. This is based on the Steamboat Willie license. now because Steamboat Willie is public domain. So we're gonna see if this is any good or is going to be a cheap cash grab. So let's click on it. I have not seen the trailer. It's a good thing that I muted that because that would have gotten us in trouble. All right, let's put the volume on. Oh, pardon me. Let me go back a bit. So this game is inspired by works. I'm gonna full screen this. Let's see. So this is an infestation. So number one, find the source. Okay. So they thought it was a rat problem. Treat the infestation. What the hell's going on? So it's like mutated rats? This actually does not look that bad, Wolfies. Survive. Do you get to play as the killer too? That would be so cool. Whoa. That actually does not look so bad. So, it's like a Dead by Daylight? This looks kind of cool. Alright. That was Infestation. This is the first of many Steamboat Willie public domain knockoff things. 88 Infestation. I'll be honest with you, Wolfies. I would probably buy this. If this is like a 4-player co-op online asymmetrical horror game, I would play this. If it's like even just a shooter game too, it looks kind of fun. I can't lie. It does look pretty fun. It's kind of a silly concept, yeah. Because it's like, oh man, why did they really do that? But I'm for that. I'm down for that. I gotta give that a like, actually. I'm quite down for that, Wolfies. I am. This is by Nightmare Forge. Oh, can't play that. Alright. Let's go back into Steamboat Willie because there's other things that I have seen. I'm not gonna play the cartoon, don't worry, because why you can't use it the way you think, the people's lawyers are trying to explain it, and yet there's gonna be a lot of lawsuits, I think, because of this. Because not a lot of people know what you can do with it and what you can't do with it. Alright, so there's a horror movie apparently that's coming out as well called Mickey Mouse's Mousetrap. Or Mickey's Mousetrap. Because it can't be Mickey, right? So let's play this and see. This is a horror movie. It's coming out in 2024. Oh, sorry. I'm full screen. I forgot I can't double click the screen. Alright, amusement park. Well, this looks like this is not very say-so? Let's see. Alright. This looks very poorly acted. This looks like it was filmed in Canada. They're filming this on like a black magic camera. That's like a very low entry film camera that you can buy. For those of you who are not familiar. Angry Birds gacha game in the background. Oh my goodness, you can't show that poster and not get sued? Oh boy. This is really silly. I think they're gonna get in trouble for this. Oh, the acting is atrocious. Wait, did you see that? There's something running across. Look at that. You see that in the background? It's just a guy in a suit.
I'll be right back.
That is funny.
And he's dead.
This is poorly acted. Really bad.
You never say, I'll be right back.
Oh my goodness. Is this like a student film? It got very like student film vibes to me. This dude is like... It's a mess? Did the dude go crazy and decide he was just gonna kill everybody? That's what I think the story is. A place for friends, a place for hunting. Yeah, this is just gonna be somebody jumped in the costume and spazzed out and killed everybody. You can already kind of tell just based on the reveal. It's a something. It's not something good. The mouse is out. I would probably watch this. Would you want to watch this as a movie night, Wolfies? Would you? That's an interesting one. I gotta be honest with you. They kind of gave away the whole plot of the movie already, because with the guy staring at that mask, it's obvious that guy goes crazy, puts on the Mickey costume, and decides to go on a slashing spree for whatever reason. So there's that. These cartoons, like, I don't think you can show this one, and this is public domain yet. Because, like, I think it's the very first design of Steamboat Willie, which is this design. That's Steamboat Willie, like the very first Steamboat Willie cartoon, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I think a lot of people are going to get sued and get copyright strike because they don't exactly understand how the license works. And I'm not brave enough to click on one of those videos to kind of demonstrate what it's going to be like, because, you know. So we got a Mickey horror movie and a Mickey video game. There was a Nerve video game that looks very inspired by Steamboat Willie. I don't know if I'm going to remember the name of it. Mouse. Yes. The early gameplay review. I want to check out this video as well, because although it's not like copyright infringement with the Mickey Mouse license, it's still it's kind of very inspired by that. I think they wouldn't have made this game unless the Steamboat Willie license was hold up there. We got to mute that. We don't want to get in trouble there, and then I will unmute. All right, let's full screen this. I will back up a little bit just so we can see. This game I'm interested in buying. This is a shooter. It's an interesting black and white cartoon 1930s, 40s animation shooter. I'm very interested in this title. This looks really fun. This is right up my alley. It's got a very Cuphead-like animation to it, as well as it's very inspired by Steamboat Willie and the old classic black and white Mickey Mouse cartoons. So it looks good. And this is actual early gameplay footage of it. So it's going to look way more refined, and even in the frames per second. But like, even the early alpha that they're showing here, I'm so interested in playing this. Like, it looks fun. It really, like, he's even doing handgun bullets and throwing. That's so cool. Like, that's when you have a very good license. It's a shame that that part got. That's coming in 2025 as well. So there's that type of stuff, Wolfies. There's that type of stuff that's coming out. And I think it's going to be kind of a cool time just to do that. Let's go back into just chatting just a second here. So, you know, it'll be interesting. Some things are going to get sued. Some things are not going to get sued. It's the very early Steamboat Willie design. When I can find the cartoon that I can show the proper images without being in trouble, I will show that, Wolfies. But for the time being, I cannot do that. Now, there's another thing that I want to talk about as well. That being Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey is getting a sequel. We just finished watching the first movie yesterday in movie night. And they have confirmed that there is a Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 coming. And there are even some screenshots of a character that was not in the first movie. So I'm going to bring back my screen up here with the display capture, just because I wanted to kind of, okay. All right. So Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2, directed by the same director and the same writers the last time. It's going to star Scott Chambers, Ryan Olivia, and Tallulah Evans. I'm probably butchering that name. It is expected to be released on February 16th, 2024. So that's basically a month from now. And it's interesting. I am not familiar with any of these actors or actresses at all. Simon Calloway sounds kind of familiar. Like I might have seen him in some low-budget horror stuff. He looks familiar, but I don't know. So, is there a plot synopsis? No, they don't give us a storyline synopsis. Well, I'm assuming it's going to pick up where the last movie left off. Because the last movie kind of ended on a cliffhanger, for those of you who didn't see. Let's look at some movie stills for this. So, one of the characters that was missing in Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey was good old Tigger. Why? Because Tigger, in 2023, when the movie came out, was not public domain yet. Tigger apparently now is going to become public domain in 2024. So apparently now they can use the Tigger license. So this is our first look at Tigger, who looks really burnt and not like a tiger whatsoever. But I will give them credit because his mask looks a lot better than Pooh and Piglet's mask looked in the first Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey. Apparently, this is going to be Pooh getting a bit of a makeover. So Pooh is going to look a little bit different in the movie. Pooh is apparently going to sit on a throne of candles. So I can't lie, as goofy as this looks, in terms of like the character, the shot itself makes Pooh look very, very menacing and like deranged. All right, so I don't know what that guy is in the background. Can I enlarge this? Ah, Piglet looks like he's back, which is going to be very confusing because, well, if you saw the movie, you know what happened to Piglet. So I'm interested to see how that's going to be explained. Let's look at, what is this supposed to be here? I'm sorry. If I can zoom in. Is it supposed to be Owl? It's got like feathers on him, right? Are they going to do all the 100 Acre Woods characters in this film? Because that's kind of confusing, because in the first movie, Pooh, spoilers for anybody who didn't see the movie yet, in case you didn't see the movie night, maybe turn away and come back in like 5 minutes. But in the first movie, the movie opened because Christopher Robin left Pooh and Piglet alone, and the rest of the 100 Acre friends, and they decided to become feral because there's no food for them to survive with, and Pooh and Piglet basically killed everybody except for Tigger wasn't around. So who is this? Because I guess Owl kind of survived because he wasn't mentioned as one of the people that was, or characters that was eaten. So, but Piglet, like, did he find a new Piglet? And maybe this is like the second Piglet? I'm confused. That was a sponsor ad. Are those all the stills? Okay, that looks creepy. I don't know who that's supposed to be. That looks like that was right when the first movie ended, so that's interesting there. Okay, I guess these are going to be two characters that are featured in it, most likely victims. That's fine. We have police and car. More people are probably characters on set. That's Poop, who looks a little bit thinner in this movie. He hasn't been eating very well. This guy, who I don't know who he's supposed to be. That's, I think, Tigger. Tigger looks like he's on a rampage. This character looks like he might have his arm cut off. This is Tigger. That's probably our best shot of Tigger right now in this film. Let's zoom in. I zoomed in too much. Pardon me, I'm still new at trying to do this. I am also not doing this on my touchpad. I have to go back. Can I zoom out? Nah. Cannot. Yeah, that was probably foolish on my part. Let me see if I can go back and go back into the stills. I am new, still at this type of stuff. Okay, let's just go this way. I don't know who the main character is going to be. I don't know if it's extension of Christopher Robin, so let me zoom in, but not as much this time. I can. Problem is on the touchpad, they really don't want you to zoom. Ah, why is this so hard to do? I will try one more time. Not this is our best look. Oh, okay, there we go. So this is Tigger. He looks feral. He looks like he's been tortured. And he looks like he's having a very bad day. I'll be honest with you, Tigger looks way more menacing than Pooh did in the first movie. Give me him as the solo standout character here. If he kills Pooh in this movie, and it's like the main killer of it, I would be down for that. I would be down for that. This might be the best looking of the characters that they've introduced. Yeah, like this shot really works well for me too. His face, this shot does not look as menacing. It looks a little bit goofy. Pooh on the throne again. This has got to be like Owl. So it's Tigger, Owl, and... Oh, look at Pooh in the background. He is thinner. That's interesting. That is kind of menacing. So they have kind of redesigned Pooh a little bit. Maybe there's a time jump, time skip. That's the official logo. It looks... It was done in Photoshop in like 5 minutes. It is what it is. I do stuff in Photoshop in 5 minutes, so... Alright, it's Owl. Piglet? How is Rabbit back? Did they do Necromancer? Because, like, he's dead. He was never featured. Unless this is supposed to be Tigger there. Is there any more images? This is like a very photoshopped thing. Let's say, friends, you've gathered to take revenge. Friends will gather to take revenge. So are these characters going to take revenge on Pooh, and this is how the story arc is going to end? Perhaps? There's a lot of theories here. I didn't think I was going to have this many theories with a movie. We haven't even seen the trailer to it yet, Wolfies. But that was Winnie the Pooh 2. Which... Or Winnie the what is it called? It's Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2. They really went all out for the title there. Interesting. I will watch it. Maybe we could potentially watch it here at some point as a movie night again. It's looking like it's going to be another so bad it's good type of film. It's an interesting concept, to say the very least. I'm a little bit taken aback, Wolfies. I cannot lie. It's something like I was not expecting the images to look the way they did. There is another movie trailer that I saw that's pretty cool. How many of you are familiar with a public domain character called Punch? It's a Punch doll. When you see it, if you're a fan of an old horror movie called Dolls, it's going to make sense. If not, then you're in for a treat, because I think this has potentially the chance to be a very big breakout horror film. There's also Imaginary, which I think is a pretty good horror film as well. I will talk a little bit more about that one another time. But let's cue it up. Alright. So this is the movie Punch, done by Paranoid Android Films. This is a UK film, but I think it's got a very cool touch to it. Did I hit play? Oh, I'm sorry, no volume. Start from the get-go. Punch. This is based on the Punch doll that's public domain. You've seen the Punch doll in Dolls, as well as I think it was in the Baby Oopsie movie.
Not for long.
Ooh. So she's going back to her hometown.
You're not the only person to vanish in this town and never be seen
Hmm.
again. Girls heard of Mr. Punch, right?
So, like, this is very, very eerie.
What he does to girls like you.
And the acting seems pretty spot on. It's not perfect, but they're trying definitely a lot more than Mickey Mousetrap. Like, some of the lighting choices in this film look very interesting to me. The voice could be a little bit better, but they want it to be unsettling. It looks like it's going for very classic 1980s-ish type of slasher horror vibe. Some of the sets look a little hokey, but, I mean, considering the budget that they're probably working with. Like, he's terrorizing this girl. Truly. That scene is a little unhinged, too. Like, there's some good camera angle choices and lighting that they really, really wanted to do a lot with Punch. So, I think this might be a sleeper horror hit of 2024. I think it's going to be really, really good. Like, when I saw... Let's not look at this trailer. When I saw what they were going to do with Punch, like, there's so many good shots in there. So I'm definitely excited to see Punch. Still gonna be a while away because they just put out the trailer for it, but it looks interesting. It's definitely on my horror movie radar. Perhaps that's something that maybe we can watch as well here as a movie night. As you know, I like a lot of horror films. There's a lot of horror films that I do enjoy. There's some horror films I think you should watch, just like if you are a fan of horror but you haven't seen them, there's like a big list of horror films that. But that's basically most of the stuff that I wanted to react to today. There was one other thing that I actually had my first troll comment on YouTube which I thought was kind of funny. So remember, Wolfies, when we discussed about Puppet Master the game, how they were supposed to do a Demonic Toys update, and then the Demonic Toys update didn't come out whatsoever. I'm actually going to key this up so you guys can see here. Me 1 second here, Wolfies. I want to get my Twitter set up so it's on there. Would not be surprised if this developer blocks me, but I think it's fair to say. So, after months and months and months after Puppet Master was supposed to have the Demonic Toys update, they went dark for the whole month of December. There was no update whatsoever as to why the Demonic Toys hadn't come out. In fact, I did a video on this and talked about this last week when I was like, the only thing that they've been doing is promoting buying the DLC for a game where there's no online player base. So, look at the tweets. November, that's when they put out that DLC. They have made tweets about just the paid DLC. That was the free DLC. That was should have been the paid DLC. That's, again, still talking about the free unlock, but they're not talking about anything about Puppet Master's Demonic Toys update. So look, in December, when we're supposed to be promoting the Demonic Toys, what is the tweet here? The new DLC, Blade Skin, based on original movies, unfathomably good. The likeness is dead on, and the new execution. They basically retweeted a guy who's like a faithful of them. And here's the thing. Matt Bramer is the person who wrote the Puppet Master Complete Franchise History Guide. So he's going to be impartial, and his stuff is featured in the game. So he's telling you to go buy a DLC cosmetic that should be included in the base game because he's trying to help his homies out, which I think is kind of scummy to do that. So then October Games, after we've made the video, because my video came out 3 days before this, decided that they saw my video and wanted to respond by having a Twitch stream. So then they were like, finally, the day after, made a tweet about the thing. Apologies for the silence. Demonic Toys are taking longer than expected. Catch a preview and join our Q&A on Twitch, Thursday, 4 p.m. PST. Never mentioned this on YouTube whatsoever. No update whatsoever, right? So then they put, big thanks everyone who joined. You all, if you have more questions about the game, feel free to reach out. More time for Demonic Toys. About a week, we'll update you here. So in a week from now, they're supposed to update the game as to what's going on. But keep in mind, they had no problem with pinning the paid cosmetic again for you to see. Because the free update, we're just going to kind of like delay it for whenever. But don't forget to buy our stuff for a game that's still player base wise. Let's check the Steam charts for today. As I'm pretty sure the game has not had a spike since then. Can I even find on Steam charts? They might have done the troll move of removing it. Because game companies can remove it from the game. Steam charts. Let me take out the first part of the Steam charts there because we don't want that. But let's see. Oh, no. Here we go. So, did their little news help the game whatsoever in the last week and the Twitch stream that nobody knew about? There were 7 people playing 33 minutes ago, which is the one stream that I showed you where the person just plays. The maximum peak players was 8. The all-time peak is still 249. November, look at this. Minus 18.57% gain. December, minus 10.80% gain. We're in January. Look at the gain again. Minus 10.29% gain. 3.9 average players are playing this game in January because the developers, again, decided to push an update back and not communicate until after the update still hadn't gone live. They waited all the way to January to say, hey, this update's not coming out, instead of saying in the middle of December or the beginning of December. Why? Because in the beginning of December, what were they doing instead? Tweets don't lie, Wolfies. Tweets don't lie. November, we were pinned this because we want you to buy the paid cosmetic for the Puppet Master movie edition of Blade from Puppet Master 1. The game is based on Puppet Master 1, but they decide that instead of giving this as a main cosmetic in the game, you're going to have to pay for it, right? So, before a whole month went by before they even talked about that the game, what was going on with the game's update. Before then, what was it about? The DLC. Just promoting a paid DLC cosmetic for a game that doesn't have a player base. Why would you do that? It's pretty obvious what you're interested in, right? Pretty obvious that the only interest there it would be money. Let's go into Steam for Puppet Master the game to see if even the developers have answered anything that the community has been asking about. Because let's make sure that's muted. Okay. So look, all the expensive DLC that you could want, $22.90, no player base, right? Let's check the community hub to see if people even care about the fact that there was a delay. If people are even talking about this. Well, look at the first update here. Slasher Man, lost nearly all my experience for no reason. This has happened before with my weapons and perks, but I was able to get over it as I could grind it back with XP. But now the XP I had saved up for the demonic toys, over 670,000, is all gone besides a merely 2,500 XP. I'd never have had this happen in any other game. I might play the demonic toys update, but after that, if my blank isn't restored, I'm effing done. So now there's a glitch where people's XP is magically being deleted. Some bug reports and suggestions. People are complaining again about the controllers with the sensitivity sliders, something I complained about a long time ago that they never listened about. One match I was able to adjust in game, while the next two I couldn't. I'm unable to adjust FOV slider, it just wouldn't move. So the hubs that don't work in the game, which was reported. Leech Woman hitbox. Just wanted to say the Leech Woman's hitbox isn't properly placed. When you hit with her dagger, it has the same length as the other puppets. As an example, if you're too close to the wall is behind. Notice how these bugs, nobody's talking about them on the Steam forums. About those servers, okay, so the person's like, the game is awesome, difficult to find online game because nobody's playing, connected to specific times or speaks. They're saying that they don't have time really to jump in to a Discord, or they don't feel that they should have to wait for a specific time to get a match. Amen. They were asking that maybe they should just merge all the regions into one. Amen. They said developers on this one that they couldn't do it for whatever reason. I just think they're too lazy to do it. Gameplay feedback. Finished first round. Loved concept. Let's see what they said. Every time you vent for health. Great work. So this person was happy, right? Look at this. Game lags on the map with rain. So they lowered the graphics settings, everything didn't work for them. Slasher Man. So didn't the Slasher Man already have a problem with this game? So they were complaining about the FPS drops, and let's see if the developers even did anything with this. Sorry, here you're having issues. Any update on this? 16 gigs of RAM, graphics 440. Yeah, they shouldn't have a problem with the game lagging, but apparently they're having an issue. Then they lost their data. Nobody responded to that at all. If anyone still plays this game, dead as F. And again, they tell you to go to the Discord, which is the same 17 people that don't play this game, and you can only find 7. Let's do some more research where we're at Wolfies, right? Because just to kind of take a look here, let's see, Puppet Master the game on Twitch. Is anybody even streaming the game right now? No, nobody's streaming the game right now. Let's go on YouTube. Let's see. Puppet Master the game. Let's see. There has not been content made for this game at all in a very long time. I think the recently uploaded thing was the video I did, right? 6 days ago. Streamed 5 days ago. Only 31 views. Nope. Is there anybody playing this game live? Nope. Yeah. So, I'll tell you a funny story. I don't know if I have it saved in the notifications. Let me go down here and see if I can save it. I had a nasty comment that was written to me. And it was obviously from the... There it is. No. Okay, that was actually a positive. So I made the video, right, of Puppet Master game, The Game is Dead, which, again, I backed it up with proper claims abound that this was a game that was not really going to make it out of even early access, and that, you know what, they made a promise that the Demonic Toys were going to come out in December, and they failed with that promise and are interested in their microtransactions for a game that you can't even play 90% of the modes online. Well, I got a nasty comment for speaking the truth on my YouTube that was like, your voice changer sucks, move on, and everything of the sort. So it seems like either we have a butthurt developer that can't take constructive criticism, or we have some butthurt gamers that cannot accept the fact that the game that was hyped up and had a lot of promises of it was going to get better, or the fact that there's a lot of glaring issues with the game that have not been fixed, that will not be fixed, that will probably not ever really anything will be done with it, have moved on. Like, whenever it comes to a game, gamers speak with their wallets, right? They're not making a lot of money off the DLC, because I can see what has been made in terms of purchases off the DLC with various different statistics. They haven't sold a lot of DLC. I can see from Steam charts, nobody's playing the game. I can see from YouTube and Twitch, nobody besides their one stooge has been streaming the game. I've talked to our people who are popular streamers as to how they felt about Puppet Master of the game, and everybody said, well, it was a dead game, it's kind of boring, it's not fun to really play, it's very generic, the hitboxes don't work. So gamers don't lie about a game. When a game is not up to snuff, if it's not up to quality, people just simply don't play it, whether it's free to play or not. Like, there is a difference between doing, you know, the thing about it with October games is I made a tweet a long time ago about how I felt like it was a very scummy practice to, instead of focusing on the free content update that was already promised, to push out another cosmetic update that was just going to sell a movie skin that should have been in the base game. And they didn't take it to heart very well because they couldn't handle the constructive criticism then. And then they continued to come at me on Twitter about it. And then, on top of that, I decided to write a review on my honest thoughts of how, you know what, the game is good, but the controller settings don't work properly because it's not optimized for controller. There's a VRAM issue or a memory leak issue where most of the time when you try to start up the game, it lags and it freezes up even on the best of rig systems. You know, I put that the developers focus more on microtransactions than actually adding content to the game. I focused on the fact in the review that the online play is non-existent, which is very difficult because you can't play literally 95% of the online modes because there's nobody ever play it with. You know, and I focused on that. You know what, most of the paid cosmetics anyway are just palette swaps of current existing costumes. So it was honest opinions. This is honest takes that a lot of other people had, and they decided on Steam to give me a clown reward. So that just kind of goes to show you what the developers of Puppet Master the game are like. They can't handle constructive criticism. They clearly are not very good at responding to issues within their own game, and they make a lot of promises that they don't generally follow through with. Totem update was the same thing where it was delayed, but it was delayed by about a week. The demonic toys were promised in December, and it is well into January already, and they have not released them, and it's going to be a week before we get any sort of update as to what's going on with them. And I'm pretty sure when it comes to the demonic toys, people are not going to be able to get online matches with it, so you maybe get the 17 people who still play the game to probably play it, and it'll be up for maybe the month of February, assuming it comes out, and it's going to go right back down. Most people, respectable streamers, content creators, people that really are into horror games are not going to play this game. Myself included at this point. I have no interest in playing any more of it. I played 30 hours of the game. I've seen everything the game had to offer, which, quite frankly, is not enough. And it's going to be prop night, Evil Dead the game, eventually Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because that game's not doing as hot, despite the fact that devs are kind of holding on to hope that it gets better. But that's basically where that game is at. And that's really a shame. It really, truly is. All right, Wolfies. So I'm going to be kind of closing up the Moonlight Brew. Thank you for joining me for these discussions on these topics. Hope I was able to entertain you. Hope you enjoyed some of the things that we reacted to as well. I think there's a lot of interesting movies definitely coming out. The Steamboat Willie games look actually pretty interesting. So there's that. So, like I said before, the schedule for week 3 will be up on Sunday night. Sunday evening, it's going to go up. Games that you should expect to be on that lineup are going to be Batman, Arkham Asylum, Resident Evil HD Remastered, because we're going to continue to play through that. Stardew Valley, Graveyard Keeper. We might have Monster Hunter in the mix. There will be more just chatting that week, and we will do a movie night as well. I'm not going to announce the movie just yet because I haven't made the schedule, and I think it's going to be a more wholesome movie this time around, but to be determined. I'm going to try to look for a movie that is something everybody could watch either on Netflix or Hulu or Tubi, something that's very, very easy to find, and we will watch another movie that way. So I have to kind of make a general consensus. As for the community game nights that I did mention, this week we did Monster Hunter World. Next week, I'd kind of like to do some maybe party animals. I think also we're going to do some Fall Guys, like customs. And I might even toy around with the idea of Fortnite, because I noticed in our Discord there are a couple of people who do, in fact, play Fortnite. And I think that could be kind of an interesting thing. Maybe we could do Lethal Company. Because I am interested in picking up the game. And just, again, don't have a lot of Wolfies to play with at the moment. But if there's enough interest, it's a $9 game. It's very easy for me to swing $9. And maybe we could play more of that. Anyway, Wolfies, gobble up your coffee, have your adult beverage, even though it's still very early in the morning for some of you to be having that. But depending on where you are in the world, it is happy hour somewhere, right? Right. But yes, you know, it's closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I will see you on Monday for week 3 of the Moonlight Brew. Till then, Wolfies, have a great rest of your weekend.